In this week's episode, I'm joined by Jim Fielding, he, him, founder of All Pride, No Ego, and dog dad to Olive and Cricket. This week, our conversation is about subway voices coming out, land stewardship flipping the script, prison newsrooms making history, and more. Hey there, my name is Bernadette Smith, and I'm a keynote speaker and writer. My pronouns are she and her. Welcome to 5 Things in 15 Minutes, my weekly show where I bring good vibes to DEI. That is good vibes to diversity, equity, and inclusion with a little dash of corporate social responsibility. What I found is there are lots of news stories about what's going wrong in the world and lots of negative data. But there are also a lot of things going right. That's what I like to focus on. I search for stories that we can be inspired by and learn from. My hope is to inspire you to experiment with some of these actions and policies to help you build a more inclusive world. Welcome to the show, Jim. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. It's an honor, a privilege. I just love anytime I get to be in community and conversation, as I say. So
me too.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Can you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm joining you from Atlanta, Georgia today. I'm originally from Ohio and lived a long time in California. Atlanta is a relatively new 4-year thing. I'm now, I guess, how I introduce myself is coach, author, speaker, podcast host. After a 35 plus year corporate career, I made the pivot in 2023, 2024, and this year. And it really was all due to the book that you mentioned, All Pride, No Ego. It opened up a whole new world. I went back to school to become an executive coach here at Emory in Atlanta. And I'm a solopreneur, entrepreneur, whatever I am, ringleader. And I'm in the DEI space, to your point. I think by nature of being an out gay man, I'm in the DEI space. Mm-hmm. I do not proclaim to be a DEI expert, but I spend a lot of time, and really the messages in the book are personal authenticity, authentic leadership, and what I like to call radical kindness. Mm-hmm. I'm spending a lot of time in that space. And I'm loving it. Like, I feel like this is what I was meant to do now. And it's a happy accident.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about what are the types of folks that who are your clients, who are you coaching? Yeah. What does that look like right now?
Yeah, I feel like I have like 3 buckets of clients. I mean, I tend to attract senior executive C-suite people because that's where I was. And so it could be a senior executive who's wanting to work on team building or culture. Many times I get contacted people who are like pivoting in some way. They're getting ready to leave corporate or retire, or they want to go work in nonprofit. I get a lot of people from what I would say underrepresented and marginalized communities who are trying to understand how to navigate corporate America in particular. Mm-hmm. Women, Black, Latino, queer. I mean, I get a lot. And then I do a lot of work, and it ends up honestly pro bono work, but I do a lot of work with young college graduates, master's students and undergrads who are kind of entering the workforce for the first time, coming out with their degree and trying to figure out what their path looks like and what kind of company they want to work for.
Have you figured out in all of that and on your journey, have you sort of figured out what your why is? Like, what is your personal purpose for this?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I've had a mantra since I was really, I think, 16 or 17, and that is, maybe leave our corner of the world a little better than we found it. So I'm very much about small, random impacts that make a difference. And then I think the why lately, and it's taken on a bigger sense of urgency, is I truly believe that if you create physically and psychologically safe spaces for people, for human beings, work teams, community groups, nonprofit groups, you will get the best and brightest ideas because they feel safe to bring their full selves to work. So I think, or to that assignment or that project or that event. And so I feel I'm passionately committed to that. Like I've always been, how you achieve the goal is as important as achieving the goal itself.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I did an exercise recently, kind of reflecting on my why, my personal sense of purpose, not necessarily business, but as an entrepreneur, we are interconnected. And I feel like it's a little bit deeper than it was before because of this exercise that I did. And it was because I was about discovering how the sense of purpose can be from identifying unmet needs from childhood. And so I was like, like a latent queer kid, right? Pretty lonely. I was the youngest child basically in my entire family by a lot of years. And so my why is to help people have more authentic, playful experiences so everyone feels a little more seen and loved. Yeah. And it feels so good.
I love that why. That's amazing. Congratulations. That's a big insight.
Thank you.
We're all healing. We're all healing. We're all healing those childhood traumas, right? And
exactly.
It's fun. I love there's not a lot of things I love about aging, I'll be honest. But one of the things I do love about aging is the wisdom that comes with it. And
sure,
I kind of start each day now saying, like, you are enough and you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Right? Like, I'm not on this insane treadmill I was on, especially when I was I was constantly just, I got to do better. I got to do better. I got to do more. I got to top myself. I've got, and I think I'm working so much harder to be in the present. And I love what you say about playfulness, because sometimes that means I'm going to sit and watch like 3 episodes of a Netflix show and not feel guilty about it, right?
I hear that. I mean, for me, pickleball has really saved me because I did used to be like all hustle, but now I can channel that in a different place. And one of the things that it was sort of been a revelation is, and I've talked about this a lot, but all the diversity of pickleball players, right? So much there. But one thing that I've found is a superpower, and not just in pickleball, but kind of in life that I have, is I'm really good at connecting with straight white men. And someone actually asked me about that last week and said, is it because you're pretty, not too masculine, not too feminine? And I thought that was an interesting question. But I think it's because I don't judge people. I don't judge people for what they don't know, what they haven't done yet, the mistakes they've made, because we're all kind of figuring this out, right? And as long as people are
100%.
willing, that's what we need, that sense of willingness. And we need straight white men, so we can't push them away.
At all. And, I love that you say this, Bernadette, because it's like, and I love when they ask questions, and I love when they say, am I saying this correctly? Or like the pronoun thing, right? And I've said this, listen, I was a senior executive at Disney and DreamWorks and The Gap. Like, of course I was managing straight white men. Of course. I mean, I couldn't manage all gay people, right? Like, they didn't make a team for me that was all gay. And frankly, I wouldn't want a team of everybody that looks and thinks like me, right? That's not managing diversity, to your point. And some of my best mentor relationships and leadership relationships are with straight white men. And of course, it's been one of the things that's been interesting moving to the South. I love the South, and please, South people, I'm not bashing you. But in California, especially LA, I was in LA almost 20 years. You kind of, in a weird way, probably naively assume everybody's an ally, right? Even if they're not in the community, because they're just so exposed and it's so there. And of course, that's not right. Of course, there's people that are not allies in LA as well. But moving to the South, it has been interesting because I've had to think about that again as I enter new social settings, as I enter even things like getting a dentist and the doctor and where I get my hair cut and all that stuff. Things that you just kind of took for granted in LA, I think a lot about in Atlanta. And Atlanta has an amazing community. I know you lived here earlier. And so, yeah, there's a lot of support for the community, but the allyship is not as obvious here as it was in Los Angeles. And so I've had to kind of put those skills on again, those almost like protection skills in a way, like active listening, like really, really reading a situation before I dive in.
Because it's about safety.
It's about my psychological safety, just like everybody else's, and
exactly,
and physical safety. I don't want to put myself in compromising positions.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim. Let's get into this week's good vibe. The first story this week comes from San Antonio, where Morgan's Hotel, which is opening next year, aims to revolutionize what accessibility looks like in hospitality by making it the default, not the exception. So it's designed to exceed ADA standards, featuring oversized rooms, voice-activated controls, extra-wide hallways, specially trained staff, and a personalized AI concierge that adapts to each guest's needs before check-in. Big impact on aging travelers, neurodivergent folks, and people with physical disabilities.
Amazing, right? Like when I read this, I first off, thank God someone thought of this, and it's actually putting money into it. And I want to go visit it. Like I can't wait. I'm going to put it on my list. I want to go experience it. I'm very much about experiences and experiential retail, so I really want to go in person. It's on my list now.
Well, the backer behind this also created a theme park specifically for people with disabilities, or at least centering them in construction. So I love that. All right.
Yeah, brilliant.
The second story this week, and I don't know how I missed this one, Jim, but this past Transgender Day did visibility this past March. Longtime New York City subway announcer Bernie Wagenblast re-recorded station messages in her authentic voice as a transgender woman, and the announcements were broadcast throughout the subway. It ended up being a whole ad campaign, so PSA campaign. It transformed one of New York City's most recognizable public voices into a moment of personal truth. It's so cool. If you look at the campaign, I'll make sure it gets put in the show notes.
Yeah, please share it, because I clicked on it because you shared it with me, and I had not known this either. And again, simple, insightful, innovative, and so impactful. I mean, brilliant. I mean, again, I overuse that word, but and it's almost like duh. Like should have done this a long time ago.
Yeah.
But how great.
Yeah, so she has done the subway voice for, decades, I think. And for this particular moment, and I think it was running all week, it said, my voice as the subway announcer, and now you have my new voice as, a trans woman. Like, it was just so impactful.
Crazy.
Yeah. All right. The third story this week also comes from the MTA in New York. So in a joyful reclamation of underused subway spaces, the MTA and disability services nonprofit YAI have transformed former newsstands into public art galleries featuring vibrant murals by New Yorkers with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So the works are rooted in lived experience by and for people who ride the trains daily. And these voices are typically excluded. So how awesome is that?
I mean, what's amazing is the public-private partnership that this references, like, with the nonprofit. And again, because we know those newsstands have been shutting down and physical newsstands aren't as relevant anymore. And for somebody, whoever had the initial spark, I give them total credit, to look at that and say that could be used for something so much more powerful and impactful, and not just sit there empty and kind of like a relic of the past. I think is so smart. The reuse and but a very targeted, focused reuse with storytelling and a message behind it. It's so smart.
I think the challenge here, my challenge for folks listening and watching is, what sort of underused or no longer used spaces do you have in your facilities that can be repurposed in this way to showcase diversity or celebrate accessibility or whatever the case may be?
While you're driving through your neighborhood or taking public transportation in your own city, put these eyes on, right? Put the, take the blinders off and think about it in a different way. I think it's very inspirational.
Absolutely. All right. The fourth story comes from California, which has the world's largest women's prison, which is called the Central California Women's Facility. Well, they now have the first newspaper written, edited, and designed by incarcerated women, trans people, and non-binary folks. It's called The Paper Trail. It's the first one in a U.S. women's prison. It helps these folks reclaim their voice, their agency, their visibility. Women make up 4% of California's prison population, but are rarely granted platforms for expression. And stories range from menopause in prison to ICE as currency. So I love the creativity as well.
Yeah, I mean, you and I know we've only just met, but we have this shared love of storytelling. I know that from listening to your other shows and your background. And to me, any platform that allows people to share stories, funny stories like ICE's currency, which is probably very real in their environment, but I found that kind of funny.
Yeah.
To like lifestyle, like menopause in prison, right? Like, I mean, where these people are going through life stages and sharing. And I think we know in today's society, people will take information from their friends and their peers more credibly than they will from any outside source. So like a project, it's from their community, by their community, for their community, right? And I think that's brilliant. And I hope it becomes a replicable model for other facilities across the country, because it seems, I know there was a lot of work behind it, but again, on the surface, it seems elegantly simple to just enable, right? Like, get out of the way and let people do this. It seems pretty practical.
And back to giving folks a sense of purpose, a sense of dignity, right? I mean, a place to channel
and learning new skills, like learning new skills while they're unfortunately incarcerated, like learn something new.
Yeah. All right.
I think it's great.
Me too. All right. The fifth story this week comes from the Miccosukee tribe of Florida, which is stepping up to protect lands once sheltered their ancestors. So as federal conservation funding continues to erode, the tribe has announced a groundbreaking partnership with the Florida Wildlife Corridor Foundation to co-lead land acquisition and protection efforts. So they have historically been excluded from conservation conversations, and they've been burned by broken government promises. But this now disrupts the white-dominated narrative of environmentalism and recenters it on those with centuries of land knowledge. So their goal is to conserve key parts of the 18 million acre corridor vital to endangered species and culturally significant to their community.
Love. You know, this reminds me, it's funny, we were talking about Michigan before. There's a group called the Leelanau Conservancy in northern Michigan, for Leelanau County, that has partnered with the indigenous tribes of northern Michigan in a similar effort to buy or have land donated to them, like through estate planning and things, to preserve the farmland and the wildlife land in northern Michigan. And I think, again, you know, we mentioned in one of the other stories, this private-public partnership. I love it because it's about community. It's about, it takes a village, right? Two heads are better than one. And it's solving a problem in a uniquely community-rooted way. I think so smart. I hope, again, more people learn from it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right. Good vibes indeed. Jim.
Yeah, great week.
We're going to move now into this week's Good Vibes to Go. I'll share my good vibe to go and invite you to share your good vibe to go. All right. So my good vibe to go is that it has been 10 years since marriage equality became the law of the land here in the U.S. So good vibes and a photo gallery of celebrations I will make sure is put in the show notes. Jim, what is your good vibe to go?
My good vibe to go is photos and videos that I've been seeing from Budapest, Hungary Pride over the weekend. I'm so blown away by what I saw. There's a bridge in Budapest, if anyone's ever been, called the Elizabeth Bridge. And there's photos of about 200,000 people on this bridge, crossing the bridge. And what I love about it is the Viktor Orban, who's the head of the country, had threatened participants with incarceration, arrests, imprisonment for participating in Pride this year. And instead of kowtowing to that, it actually was their largest participation ever. And I knew from the pictures, it's allies and people from the community, because there could not be that many people there if there weren't allies there as well.
Sure.
And it made me really emotional to see them basically defying resistance.
We need that the solidarity, we need the community, and we need to resist. So, Jim, on that note, how can folks get in touch with you?
I am so easy to find. I mean, Jim Fielding on LinkedIn, hijimfielding.com is my the book is All Pride, No Ego, available everywhere you can buy books. And as I tell everybody in these days of AI, if you contact me on Instagram or LinkedIn, it's me. It's not a bot answering you. I will answer all the DMs. I connect with people, and it's part of the journey that I love.
Awesome. Well, thank you. You've been a real treat to have on the show this week, Jim. And
thank you.
Happy Pride. I hope you have a great week. And folks, if you don't already get the 5 Things newsletter, you can subscribe at 5thingsdei.com. Thanks. Have a great week. Thank you for listening to 5 Things in 15 Minutes. I hope you found yourself inspired by at least one of this week's stories. If you did, would you mind sharing it with a colleague and leaving us a review on your favorite podcasting platform? And if you don't already get my 5 Things newsletter, join at 5thingsdei.com. I'm Bernadette Smith, and I'll see you next week right here for 5 Things in 15 Minutes, bringing good vibes to DEI.